Hi, hello, welcome back to Bioenergetics. My name's Devaraj, and this week we're going to be continuing with our series looking at the different Reichian character types, for 5 different character types. And we've got to number 4. We're going to look at the aggressive character or aggressive pattern of behavior. And let's just say, we can say, historically this was originally known as the psychopath, a particularly pathologizing term to say the least. And then over the years it's also been known as the inspirer. What else have we got here? I've got some notes here. The inspirer, the dominator, the influencer, this kind of character. And the basic thing that distinguishes this character from the others is that this kind of person is bringing their energy up the body and out through the front, the aggressive personality type. And their basic motivation for doing this is to take control of a situation, to be in control of what's going around, to lead, to inspire maybe. They may be doing it to challenge and to have a lot of front, and to show you that they're the dominant one and do not mess with me. Or they may be doing it, to be more charismatic, a bit more subtle. Maybe they want to, inspire or lead in a certain way. But basically they're bringing their energy up and to the front, And this you can characterize this against the other patterns and how they move their energy, because as a kid you don't have so much choice of what you can do and what you can learn, and really just how you can place your attention and your energy is about all you've really got. The leaving pattern, we're talking about someone who literally leaves the body and goes into an ideational world up here, an abstract world. The merging pattern is someone who is just longing inside of them to merge with someone else. The endurer pushes the energy down. The rigid character, which we'll look at next week, rigidifies and holds everything. But this is the aggressive pattern, so it's bringing the energy up and to the front. And as I mentioned last week, these guys really don't get on with endurers. There's a kind of battle going on between them. The aggressive will be the team leader, and the endurer will be a nightmare for the aggressive character. They're really at a polar opposite. They want to heavy everything up, the endurers, and they're kind of like, well, I've been trying to get this plan together, but it's not going to work, boss. It's just not going to work, and they're, as an aggressive leader, of course, they're just deliberately putting a spanner in the works or whatever. There's big dynamics that go on between these guys. Something interesting to note about the aggressive character is that, and even more so next week with the rigid character, is it's not quite so easy to track it to childhood. What's fantastic, particularly about the oral character and the endurers, they can really be closely tracked to stages of infant development, and to a large degree the schizoids, the dreamers as well, the people who leave the body, as a kind of womb-like thing. And the endurers, from the very first year of egoic development, around 1.5, 2. And the orals before that, the first year of life. Now with the aggressive character, it's not so easy to track. And a lot of people in the game, in the psychology or Reichian game, they try to make these precise correspondences. That's what I see. And it doesn't work quite so well, in my opinion, with the aggressive. Nevertheless, there are often very similar traits of stuff that's happened a little bit later down the line in childhood, maybe at the age of 4, 5, 6, 7. And how that usually looks like is that they frequently had experienced a quite severe loss of trust in a major caregiver, usually a parent. Basically, a severe loss of trust, and how they've processed that is they've decided, I'm not going to trust anybody again. I'm going to become very self-reliant, very good at what I do, and I'm going to get out of here and move forwards in life as soon as I can. That is the classic mindset of the aggressive pattern as an infant, as a child, I should say. And so what you can see with this is that, quite a lot of characters in early childhood might have experienced quite a loss of trust. The parents may have been seductive, they may have been fighting, they may have kind of, engaged them in the child in something and then just dropped them at some point. And the child had this huge experience of being let down by the parents, or that was their perception. But only certain types of kids will have the energy, the egoic strength to really run the aggressive pattern. So actually, if you've been strongly in the endurer, if you've been strongly in the oral or strongly in the leaving pattern, you probably won't have the egoic strength to actually run the aggressive pattern. So usually, and there's a caveat here we'll come to, aggressives tend to have not so much early ego damage. They can become self-reliant. They can push forwards, drive forwards, and just leave the rest of the world behind and just dominate out there. Now the caveat is that, you may have other patterns running in the background, but if you clear them up, if you're strongly oral and you do a lot of therapy, or you just clear your oral patterns up somehow, maybe then you'll just become aggressive. Maybe then you suddenly have the possibility to become aggressive. A lot of people don't have the possibility to become this character because they've got too much egoic damage early on in life, in the first 2 years, basically. Okay, so yes, these guys are channeling energy. They're channeling energy up their body and out. With emotional energy, the endurers are just pushing everything down. The rigids are holding everything in. The mergers are just desperate to merge, and the leavers are out of there. But the aggressives are channeling energy, and in a sense, all of the other characters, they have a use for what they're doing. The endurers can be very grounded. The mergers can be very kind of spiritual, in a sense. They're seeking connection. There's benefits to all the patterns, but with the aggressive, it is, in the kind of world we live, very useful to be able to project your energy forwards if you want to do good in life. And that is partly because the culture is so run by aggressives anyway. On a deep algorithmic level, that's how it goes. And of course, in many Western childhoods, particularly in America, the parents deliberately break the bond of trust to try and generate aggressive personalities. They don't articulate it that way in their own mind, but nevertheless it's going on all the time. And you'll often hear, especially as a therapist, working with kids who've become very, very successful, age 30, 40, but they've done it all because their dad didn't appreciate them, or, their mum dumped on them, or their teacher at school told them they were useless and they would never make the grade, and these events catalyzed a huge determination and a huge self-reliance. Okay, so let's see, what else can we say about the aggressives before we get to treatment directions. Something that is important to know with these characters, particularly distinguishing from the other three, is they're unlikely to seek therapy. It's not so common. When you sit day in, day out, year in, year out in therapy groups with all the different characters that come through, you will see a lot of leaving pattern, you will see a lot of orals, you will see quite a few endurers. You won't see so many aggressives, you won't get so many alphas, basically. You will get some, and there are reasons that there's two reasons why aggressives might seek out therapy or be interested to uncover things. One could be that they've just become really, really successful. They may have become a multimillionaire. They may have achieved all their goals, and they may be kind of looking around, well, what else is there? Why am I so driven? My school teacher told me I was useless age 6, and I've proved him wrong 100 times. But, surely, is there more to life? Do I have to be motivated by this all the time? So they may, simply have come to a place of acceptance within themselves, or at least to a sufficient degree that they're interested to understand their own psychological dynamic and to overcome it. The other quite common reason, in fact probably more common reason why aggressives sometimes come to therapy is because their life has collapsed, broken, just not working. This aggressive pattern will have more tendencies towards crime and criminal behaviour. They may have got in trouble with the law. They are quite easily taking risks, and they are quite easily breaking laws. They may just enjoy it, basically, and thrive on the adrenal rush of the risk. And of course that puts them at more likelihood of getting in trouble with the criminal justice system, the cops. And so they may realise, man, I have to do something about this. It's also probably a higher likelihood of substance use than some other patterns. So that may have also caused them to go off the rails and really realise in a moment of clarity, man, I need to get treatment or whatever. So, okay, having articulated a bit about the aggressive personality character, the aggressive pattern, let's look at the kind of treatment directions that we could go in if we want to treat this aspect in ourselves, or, if we're working as a therapist and we've got someone from this kind of category. So, big things for a big, very, very big, the hugest issue really for the aggressive pattern is to trust. Usually, as we saw, there's been at a crucial age in early childhood, there's been a break of the trust. So exercises, and trust goes in different directions. Learning to trust other people. Typically, they won't trust other people. They just think, if I want it done, I've got to do it myself. And they'll see things around them which tend to reinforce that belief. So you can look at things like trust falls, and that kind of thing, where you have to let go control and allow other people to hold you. This kind of thing can be really, really useful for the aggressive character because, of course, over time they can easily burn themselves out by driving themselves forwards. Another aspect, of course, is almost trusting inactivity because their underlying mindset tells them they need to be on control of stuff all the time. Now, when you've got a 20-year-old ego, you can probably get away with that, and a 30-year-old one maybe. But as you start to hit 40 or later on, you're going to realize this is not really viable anymore. You're burning yourself out. And you need to be able to trust yourself without you need to be able to trust the world really or life, that you don't always have to take a position and be in control. You can kind of go with the flow sometimes and just, wait for things to happen. And a big part of this is feeling the back of the body, because the spine is what keeps us upright. And if we don't feel our back, if we don't feel our spine, if in our body schema, in our sense of our body that we have on a moment by moment basis, the spine is not present, it's unconscious, then what the aggressive pattern will do is always be seeking with the mind to take control. And this will burn them out. Basically, it will require a lot of energy over time. And so exercises which allow them to feel the back more, when that is present in your body map in the moment, then you feel more support. You realize, hey, I can just let this go. I don't need to take control at this time. This guy isn't really threatening my boss position, he can do what he wants. I can be magnanimous and, I don't need to take a position of control. So this can be really revelationary for people running the aggressive pattern, feeling the back. They simply have the basic experience that they are supported by their own body, their own being. Another big one for the aggressive pattern is learning to show vulnerability. What they've learned as a kid was when they were vulnerable, they didn't get supported. They didn't get supported and they vowed, I'm not going to do that again. But of course, you cannot go through life and have a very good life if you can't show vulnerability. If you can't allow yourself to cry and be seen, if you can't allow yourself to be seen not in control, not knowing what's going on, not knowing the right thing to do. So any exercise where they themselves can work at this, can say, okay, I've got this aggressive pattern running. I need to, next time I'm hanging out with friends, I'm going to start to talk about stuff that I don't usually talk about, the bits that don't work, the bits where I'm scared, the bits where I'm unsure, where I don't actually know what to do, It's good for them. Other great treatment direction is recapturing the joy of childhood. Because what's basically happened is they've cut off from their childhood, they've kind of grown up rather young and gone out into the world to be dominant, So any exercises which help them to recapture that early kind of pre-egoic bliss, we're talking first 1 to 1.5 years of life. So that could include sucking exercises, we've done some of those before. Child gibberish, laughing exercises, child sound and this kind of thing can really, do that for 15 minutes, and they can really, it's like, wow, I'm just experiencing all this blissful state inside and I don't need to be in control of stuff. It's beautiful. Another strategy which can work well for aggressives and which they tend to seek out a little bit is that they actually get pushed in the bioenergetics beyond the point of physical exhaustion so that they can experience collapsing. This was quite a favourite with, I think, Alexander Lowen as a therapist back in the 60s and that kind of thing, working with clients. Exercises where you have to stand on one leg and lean over for a long period of time until you literally collapse on a mat in the floor, So they experience, holding on. They don't want to show that they're weak. They don't want to show they're going to collapse. They're holding on till eventually they have no choice and kaboom, down they go. And they experience internally a huge release, a sense of like, wow, that was amazing, just to surrender. The final point I want to make about, and it also refers to treatment direction, is that there's a lot of stuff about aggressives, about predatory behavior, psychopathy, sociopathy, these kind of things, and they're big, narcissism, they're big topics in the media, and the huge topics in social media. But in reality, the only real problem with aggressives, in my opinion as a therapist, is when they've got the heart closed, when they just can't really access their feelings. That's when you get the dangerous side of psychopathy going on. So any exercise for them which can open their heart and allow them to share, to show the people they're leading or, whatever, that they are human as well, basically, that they're human as well, that they don't have to channel energy up and out all the time. They can also allow it to just be human and emotional. Because this is what they're doing with their energy, the emotional energy is being channeled up and forwards. And there's nothing really wrong with that, but you will struggle to lead people if you don't also show your human side at times. If you don't also show your human side at times. Okay, repeating myself here a little bit, one of my little habits. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. If you're interested in characterology and working on yourself in this way, then do check out the 52-week online journey, which is going on at bioenergetics.org.uk. We have about 50 people on that ongoing group. And that's a video online group that you get you get a video each week which explains stuff, and a workout video to complete 7 times on separate days before moving on. So it's a really deep journey that for the average person will take 1 to 2 years. And we have whole weeks and weeks of stuff on each character with certain specific exercises to remove the traces of this character from your being, to start to take it out, so that you can just experience more presence, more sense of being okay with yourself and okay with the world, and you can just have a really much better life. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you back next week when we will be completing this series by looking at the rigid personality or rigid pattern. Bye for now.